Closing doors, please.
State your name and where you're from.
My name is Nicolette, and I am from Spanish Harlem, New York.
What do you like about Spanish Harlem?
I love everything about Spanish Harlem, and I guess it sounds biased because it's home, but I don't know, I just love how diverse it is, and how I feel like it's like a mini Puerto Rico, which is like where my mom's side of the family is from. So it's like a home away from home almost.
What do you dislike?
As of recently, I kind of don't like how it's kind of becoming a little gentrified. It's kind of losing a little bit of its class and charm that it used to have. I do like a lot of the new businesses that have come with it, but at the same time, I feel like still it's not the same as when I was growing up.
How do you see Manhattan different from the other boroughs?
Well, for one thing, here in Manhattan, everybody's on top of each other. Everybody's always in a rush to go places or whatever they have to do, as opposed to like Queens or Brooklyn, where like everybody's kind of slower moving and like, I don't know, everything's more spread out, there's more room to do things, and then like forget about Staten Island, that's like another country to me.
How about the Bronx?
And then the Bronx is like a little sister. You gotta slap her around every once in a while, but like, you know, you always gotta love the Bronx because it's right there.
So what is it like being a woman here in New York, would you say?
Oh God. The negatives and the positives, well, it's mostly positives until it's the summertime when the catcalling starts, and then you hate everybody who you walk by. And you like have to blast your headphones like 20 times louder because you don't want to hear the nonsense on your way to work or even to church. But definitely the positive of growing up in New York as a woman, it's just like you grow up with a different mentality. You don't take a lot of bullshit that people throw your way, and you just grow up a lot smarter, a lot sharper than a lot of the females from elsewhere.
What do you have to say about New York sports from your perspective?
New York sports is slowly declining, unfortunately. The Yankees haven't won since 2009. The Knicks have never won. The Giants haven't won since 2011. And then the Nets are also trash. So I would say that New York sports are becoming a thing of the past. Hopefully the Yankees or the Giants or somebody can pick it up and we could do well this year. But I'm still a Yankee fan.
How do you see New York differently from the past, like now compared to the past?
Wow, New York in the past compared to now. New York in the past, I treated it like a big old playground. And I just like was like, I had access to everything at such a young age. Like I feel like that's like a thing growing up in New York. And like, you're just kind of spoiled. And then now I'm just kind of like sick of it. And I feel like it's more of a business. Manhattan is very businessy and very corporate, and it's exactly what they call it. Like, and it's so cliche, but it's a concrete jungle. Shit is real out here. Growing up in the 90s compared to now, well, first of all, let's just get this out of the way. When we were growing up in the 90s, we weren't pussies like today's generation. That's first and foremost. This whole, oh my God, he said, and he hit me. Listen, our rule in my house is if you got hit and you went upstairs and you told them that you got hit and you didn't hit them back, you were getting your ass whipped, and then you were gonna go downstairs and go whip that person's ass. That's how I grew up. Let's get that out the way first. So all this back and forth, no. Number two, another thing that's different is that a lot of people are actually back then people actually spent time in the park. Like they were actually hanging out, enjoying each other's company instead of being in each other's face with a goddamn camera or a new Snapchat or whatever. Like we lived in the moment, and that was definitely one of my favorite parts about growing up. And then like as opposed to like now where it's like and then what else is kind of different? Well, also the shootouts have like decreased a lot since I've gotten older. When I was younger in the 90s, there were a lot more shootouts in the area, which I guess is like a part of like the gentrification of this area. So thank you, white people, you did it. So thank you, white people, you did it.
You want to talk about the Upper East Side a little bit? Just kind of living over here specifically?
Living in the Upper East Side is definitely one of the hardest things I've ever had to come across in my entire life, because they never let you forget how poor you are or how dark your skin is or where you come from. They never let you forget it because they're throwing it in your face constantly. I went to like a private like Upper East Side ritzy dotsy school, and I hated every minute of it because they were racist to me. They said they were mean to me. They just said such awful things to me, and they were all so fucked up themselves that it was just like they never even realized how fucked up they were being to someone who did nothing to them except go to school with them. And so you can, and what's crazy about it is that like if you start from where I live and go back, it's literally that's the start and the beginning of Spanish Harlem. But then you go further up from my house, and that's the Upper East Side, and that's the ritzy ditzy part. And it's so crazy how like one block separates the rich from the poor. And so, and people can still treat us so differently, like we're not living a block away from you. So that was definitely something that I had to learn how to deal with myself and come to terms with, and just kind of be like, fuck you. And just kind of be like, fuck you to the Upper East Side. This is Spanish Harlem.
What's it like being Puerto Rican in New York, let alone Latina, like we had just talked about?
Being a Latina in New York is, at least for me, has been quite difficult because I'm considered the minority of the Latina group because of my dark skin and my curly hair. And like a lot of people don't realize that like, oh, like because I'm dark skinned doesn't mean I can't be a Latina, or because my hair is kinky doesn't mean I can't be 100% Latina. And so I would say like as a dark skinned Latina, it's been fairly difficult, like having to explain to people like who I am, because that's my identity, that's who I identify myself as a Latina, and a proud one at that. But yeah, I feel like that's definitely been like the worst part about growing up as a Latina in New York, is that people just don't understand you.
Have you had any experiences with the NYPD, or in general, how do you see them? Good or bad? You can talk about it.
Well, this whole thing with the NYPD has always been a very touchy subject for me, because my mom did 20 years on the job as NYPD. My uncle was also a correctional officer for 22 years. My aunt is currently she's done 16 years with school safety. So it's really interesting to see how the perspectives of police officers have changed drastically since I was a child. I guess it's always been there, but now it's like kind of more mainstream, I guess you could say, which I think is very interesting because like now I feel like in the past a lot of people were like, no one really paid attention to police brutality or anything of that nature, and now it's like getting more mainstream because now there's more things like social media and people are always recording everything, so everything that you say or do will always be there. But at the same time, I don't know. That's such a weird topic for me because I know that there are good cops out there. I know that for a fact, but I know that there are also bad cops out there. But I feel like we as Latinos and Latinas and blacks and everybody, like minorities, are just looking for the police to own up to it and just be like, yo, that was my fault, we fucked up and we're gonna handle it, instead of being like, we don't know what happened, even though there's like camera proof of what happened. So that's really like kind of how I feel about it.
What's the craziest thing you could say on camera that you've seen in New York?
In New York?
Yeah, or some of the many, or whatever, a regular crazy thing.
Oh wow. I would have to say the craziest thing. Wow. You see crazy shit all the time in New York. That's the crazy part. I would have to say when I saw this guy and his girlfriend get into a fight on the train station, and I saw him smack the shit out of her in front of her child. There's always like, there's always the signs, like if you see like nobody's on a specific car, you know not to get on that because like there's something obviously wrong with it, like either like some bum took a shit in it or like some nasty shit, there's like a dead rat in there somewhere. But no, the MTA is great. Like I think that's definitely one of the things that puts New York ahead of a lot of other places in general, a lot of other metropolitan cities in general, is our MTA system. Like it gets us everywhere we need to be.